afternoon, CS community. My name is Sin. Today is October 12th. By the time you're watching this, it is probably October 13th. And today marks the 6th week of this series where I'm putting $100 a week into both the CS2 market and the stock market to see if I can outperform major stocks with CS2 investing. So without further ado, let's get right into this week's investments. Starting in CS, we had a rough week. My charm cash out with the Armory Stars worked incredibly bad, and since we didn't even land a single pink, we ended up only selling 2 charms for profit. The rest of them are still sitting in my storage unit where they will be collecting dust. Also, I kinda wish I didn't even sell those 2 charms. I put these charms up for auction with a pretty low reserve price, and these 2 charms ended up selling much lower than I thought they would be. But we live and we learn, and for the 2 charms I did sell, one of them was the Hang Loose charm with the low pattern ID of 227 for $2.25, and the other charm was the Sir Bloody charm, which I sold for $1.50. Including the 2% sales fee on CS Float, we netted $3.67, giving us a tiny profit of $1.07. I figured out a way to import Buff 163 prices into my spreadsheet so I can give you guys a little bit of a profit loss for each week. And so for this week, including our terrible investment into the new charms, we are sitting at around $46 profit according to Buff. Now this being said, this is using a marketplace that I don't particularly use, and this is using the lowest listed prices, which may not be the most accurate. However, these prices are still what people are listing them for, and most of this profit comes from the AK Crossfade and Factory New, and apparently the Semi-Precious charms, even though we can get them for cheaper on other sites. But let's get into our CS investments for the week. And I'm going to let you guys know now, this is a boring and quick week. I decided to again buy another 5 Armory passes for a total of $86.65. Even though the charms didn't work out, I feel like this was never really my plan, and I feel like the collection skins or the cases will be a much better investment scenario than the charms. So that leaves $14.51 left over, and I think I'm just going to carry the balance over to the next week for some other investments. And like I said how boring this week was, next week I am going to restrict myself from buying Armory passes so it doesn't turn into this every single week. So I guess let's move on to the stocks, and just like the charms that did terrible, seems like the market had a tough week too. After some decisions made, the market ended pretty low, but that just means we can buy stocks on sale now. Sad to say, however, since I'm not really investing into these stocks at the moment I say I do, and it's coming from already purchased stocks in my portfolio each week, I'll try to pick a date usually around a Wednesday to make the buy of the week. That means I didn't make it to the sale this week, and on Wednesday I bought 5 shares of the Schwab US Broad Market ETF, which is a phenomenal ETF that basically tracks the US broad market containing around 2,400 stocks. We got these 5 shares at $25.98 a piece, leaving our total invested this week to $129.90, leaving us with an extra $18.15 for next week's investments. So like I said before, our stocks ended at a low this week. Our 1 share of TXT ended at $81.53, our 5 shares of MAID ended at $28.41, Apple finished at the week with a very sad $245.27, and finally our new pick SCHB ended at $25.20, leaving our total unrealized loss for our stocks at minus $15.41, which definitely sucks to say, but at least according to Buff, our CS investments are making up for it. Hopefully though, this is just a bad week for these stocks, and next week we may see some better days than Friday. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see each and every single one of you back here next week. It's been Sin. Peace.